So I've now got with me Phil Hollingdale, founder of Staffcare, very, very experienced man in this industry. And we've also got with him Tim Simpson, who's head of reward at Callcredit, who's also been doing some very interesting things with Staffcare and in technology. I think just to do a little bit of scene setting, Phil, just very, very briefly, what are just a few of the trends that we've seen in the last few decades when it comes to technology?
Well, I've been involved in technology, business to business and business to consumer tech for about 40 years. And just so you can try and imagine what disruptive technology looked like 40 years ago, it was the golf ball typewriter. Probably not many people here who's ever used a typewriter. But the golf ball typewriter was the technology of the day 40 years ago, and then we had the electronic typewriter where it could suddenly store small bits of information, like yours sincerely, Debbie O'Donovan. And then there was a gradual progression, typewriters to word processors, then the PCs, then obviously software. And more recently, you know, the technology change is much more rapid now. You know, there's much more advancement in technology. And I think in the 40 years that I've been in it, there's no doubt the biggest impact of all those technology changes has been the internet and mobile. It's radically changed business, and it's radically changed our lives and the way we communicate with each other. And in benefits tech, which I've been involved in for about 15 years now, that's also seen very good progression. You know, when I started in this sector, we were publishing generic handbooks online, and then that evolved into personalised reward statements, and then obviously flexible benefits. And there's so many new applications coming into the marketplace today, and we've heard about some of them this morning. You know, there's applications now for automating pension selection, and we are seeing artificial intelligence in this marketplace already. So a lot of change.
A lot of change. So Tim, in terms of me as a practitioner, what sort of innovations are you seeing when it comes to technology and reward?
Well, I think for me, the pace of technology development, and more importantly, how we interact with that technology is...
Can you hold the mic a bit closer? I don't think they can hear.
Everyone hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, so the pace of technology development, and probably more importantly, how we interact with that technology, has certainly changed the EB landscape. You know, we've got, I think it was touched on by the early speaker, that we've got far more computing power in our mobile devices than we have ever before, than our laptops and anything else like that. And we've also, additionally, we've got far more tools than ever before to interrogate that data. So what that has led to is actually a change in user expectation. So users now kind of expect that consumer-grade experience in everything they do, in terms of Amazon or banking online or anything like that. So what's that done? So the flex technologies had to keep pace with that as well. So we've kind of moved away from that one-size-fits-all single enrollment window, paper-based solutions to mobile-optimized, cloud-based solutions that can handle multiple enrollment windows, that can handle individual eligibility criteria, that can handle live data feeds, that can present data on demand and on any device. So employee benefit providers as well have had to keep pace. You know, you've got such a wide choice of benefits now. You know, I was at EB Live a couple of weeks ago, and there was DNA testing as an employee benefit. So you know, that's where the innovation's going.
And Phil, you know, sort of quite often what happens in benefits and reward is influenced by what's happening outside in the way we use technology in our personal lives. So what sort of technology trends are we seeing in our everyday lives that we might maybe one day see in benefits?
I think an example that is often referred to, and we heard it referred to this morning a few times, is Amazon is a great example of a website that delivers sort of personalization and relevance. And I think as an industry, we can learn a lot just by thinking about the applications or the websites that we use in our everyday lives. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of sort of emerging trends, and the hot tech trends that we talk about today, besides fintech, which everyone now understands what that is. But you know, the sharing economy is a very big thing, like Airbnb. The gig economy, I think, is going to have a big impact on the industry. In fact, I read something earlier on this morning that in the States, they predict that by 2020, 40% of the workforce will be contractors. And the gig economy is people just sort of doing multiple jobs, and they will be much more mobile. So I think that's going to influence how we use technology, and I think it will also very much influence the type of benefits we've got to think about giving people. Big data, we hear a lot about that. We heard a lot about it this morning, and how you use all that data for much more informed decision making, and all the analytics you can get from big data. And thinking about some of the questions that were asked this morning that were coming up on the screen, there was one question was, how do you pre-populate, or how do you get all of this information into a system? Do you have to key it in? So screen scraping is a technology term that's been around for quite a while, but you can pull data from lots of systems now to pre-populate your benefits platform. So you can then start using that data a lot more as an employer, and your employees are presented with information that's sort of ready prepared. And artificial intelligence, or machine learning as we call it, is very rife in industry now, and is coming into employee benefits. I'm working with another business, and they use artificial intelligence to make decisions for people around their pension contributions and their fund choices. So I think we're going to see so much more of that. So I think it's just good to think about the sort of websites you use every day, and the apps that you use and the applications. And I'd encourage you also just to get a group of employees into a room with you one day and just brainstorm and say, again, what do you use and what would you like to see us doing in the workplace?
Good, and that takes us neatly back into the workplace. And Tim, it'd be quite interesting to hear what you're doing at Callcredit around some of these trends and maybe the engagement project you've been working on.
Yeah, so we went down the route of a kind of a more tailored, more personalised approach. So in my organisation, we actually already had a pretty strong core employee benefits package. But what we weren't seeing was the corresponding engagement in terms of take-up and information. So we kind of had three key drivers, essentially. So we wanted to re-engage with our people in terms of the great choice of benefits we had. We wanted to enhance the perceived value of our benefits, and wanted to help people make better decisions. So how do you do that in the first place? Well, you do that by offering benefits that are meaningful to the individual in the first place, that are delivered at the right time and in an easily digestible format. So we developed a strategy based upon the segmentation of our workforce into behavioural types rather than going down the generational format. So what did we do? So we spent a lot of time listening to our people, finding out about what benefits they wanted, finding out about what they thought as an employer in terms of what they wanted from us. But we also carried out a lot of behavioural profiling as well. So we asked people about their attitudes towards money, their attitudes towards benefits and how they spent their time. And then we did a lot of work working in tandem with our EB consultant, Grant Thornton. We spent a lot of time with our branding guys like Minds, and obviously our flex technology partner, Staffcare. And we came up with an innovative personality profiler. And that enables people to consider the types of benefits that someone with similar personal attributes might select. And that segmentation allows users to find their way to content that was most likely to suit their needs and preferences without any way stereotyping them. So all this work led to the creation of the avatars you see behind me. And the name of our Flex offering, which is called Benefits to People Like You. So again, we are reinforcing the choice and tailoring message. And essentially, employees were asked to complete a very quick 8-question online survey before they can access the benefits portal in the first place. Just simple yes or no answers. And that led you to one of these avatars and obviously led you to the content. So to give you a flavour, if you were the runner, for instance, so the runner's personality type was someone who's fit and healthy, who likes staying fit and healthy. So you were given content in terms of our PMI policy, our cycle to work, our health assessments, things like that. Conversely, if you were the analyst is analytical in his approach, weighs up the pros and cons, knows about money, so they were given content in terms of our life assurance policy or income protection scheme or anything like that. So this approach not only led to a true sense of participation in the programme, but it also led to a stronger sense of engagement. And we got some great results on the back of it. You know, we had 90% of employees logged into the platform, 75% of people went on to make benefit elections, and obviously we won Best Flex Plan at EB Live this year. So, you know, really, really great results. Now, it's not because Phil's sat here, but a key part of it is the technology. So the Staffcare platform, because that does facilitate, delivering the content, doing the modelling. It facilitates the multiple enrolment windows as well, which is really important because it means employees can make their choices when they want to and not determined by the company.
Fantastic. So that's interesting, Tim, because you sort of seem to have really made the most of your technology as opposed to the 89%. Oh, I've been told I've got 10 minutes. Okay, I've got slightly more than I thought. So, so as opposed to the 89% of the people in the room who said that they're not currently making the most of their technology. And I'd like to explore that a bit more, because it's probably the nub of this particular session of actually how can you be achieving some of the things that Callcredit's been achieving or some of the other clients out there. What are the things that you're seeing that people perhaps don't use enough of and make the most of today?
Well, I think, so what Tim's described that they've done at Callcredit, I think is making very good use of the technology that's available today. And what I talked about earlier on, that sort of the personalisation, excuse me, and the personalisation, the way they've done that with the avatars and helping people get down to products that are relevant for them. So within our sort of development team, when we're brainstorming and talking about where we can take the software, we talk a lot about personalisation and also relevance, how we're making this relevant to me. Because there's so much content available today online. There's a lot of content often sitting in benefit platforms, but sometimes it's just not relevant enough or it's not personalised enough. I think people are used to bite-sized pieces of information nowadays. Look at Snapchat. 100 million people a day sort of use it. It's just an example of the way people like to sort of get information and interact and just have small pieces of information on a regular basis. So a lot of that Tim's doing. I think many other companies could make a lot more of that sort of technology that's already there today. And I'd encourage you, when you're thinking about what more you can do with the technology, break it down into what can we do with the front end to make that more engaging and more relevant and more personalised and interactive for the employees. And then think about the back end and what can we do for business efficiency and how can we use some of the data that we're holding. I said earlier on, you can scrape in data into your platforms and you can hold so much information now. Every move that we make, where we are today, what we've looked at through social media today, people are capturing that information and you can start to use that information now. So just as an example, if you had all of the employees' personal financial data in your platform rather than just employee benefits, you would know your people so much better. Because at the minute, you don't really know your people, you just know what benefits you give them. But if we hold all of their personal financial data, which we've got access to, we can see what they're spending money on, what their spending habits are. We can maybe nudge them a little bit and help them. If you moved a little bit of your discretionary spend on travel, for example, and put it into your pension, you might be 10 grand better off when you retire. So you can start using this data combined with some artificial intelligence and start pushing very relevant, clever messages out. I'm going to just give you another example, if I may, taking it to the extreme as to what I think will start happening, is that we'll be able to use all this data and pull data from social media. So technically we can do this today. So let's say you've got an employee, he's looking at Facebook, and on Facebook he jumps into a sort of an advert for Volvo, and the advert's all about fuel consumption and safety. You can make a fair assumption that's probably a fairly conservative sort of individual. I'm sorry if I'm stereotyping any Volvo drivers, but just to try and make a point. So you could take that data, make an assumption, pre-populate their risk profile, and then go into sort of pension fund selection automatically.
I can feel everybody typing on their Slido immediately going, will employees allow this? So I'm interested to see what questions come up from the session. But very interesting what you could do with
the question about trust that was raised earlier on.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we did the content on our Flex platform is split up in terms of, if you just want to read this. But if you want all the detail as well, you've got the detail as well. If you want it paper-based, you can print it out. So you've got to kind of segment the workforce on that basis as well. Yeah.
So I think trust would be a growing thing, and consent marketing and permissions. You've got to sort of get permission from your employees as to what they're happy for you to do and what data to grab and see.
Yeah, yeah. So Tim, when we were talking about this a week or so ago, you were talking about some of the stuff that you're doing at Callcredit to get more stickiness on the site and what you're doing with total reward statements and so on. Can you just explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we've got dynamic total reward statements, so live data feeds in, so it always reflects the current picture of the employee. But we also do a lot on social media, so we use our internal Yammer site, so people can talk about the great benefits they've got and what savings they've made. We also have a calendar of events, because we've got the multiple enrolment windows, you can link promoting certain benefits on a calendar event. So when we had the Tour of Yorkshire a couple of years ago, we did that with, we pushed out Cycle to Work. So that's the hook, really. I think there's a question there about trust, actually, about how you build trust on personalisation. I think the key for us there is we spend a lot of time researching the benefits and making sure they're useful and relevant to the employees, but we also do get a lot of feedback from the employees in terms of those benefits. So, we're more than happy to put new benefits in or take them away as and when we see fit.
So, Phil, do you want to pick up on that personalisation question, or should we go to our next most popular? So I'm sitting in a really bad place, so let me just read it. Do we use technology within the platform capability? How are suppliers helping progression when platform contracts for 3 years, often without upgrades? Actually, that's a really good point. Phil, you're very familiar with this area.
Yeah, I think most platform providers try to engage a client in a 3 or 5 year term contract. All of the providers in the marketplace are spending millions enhancing their technology. Many millions, and all rolling out different things at different times. But ordinarily, and one of the benefits of the internet technology is that we can deploy enhancements fairly quickly across a client base. So most of the providers during the lifetime of that contract, 3 or 5 years, will be sort of plugging in upgrades, and some of the stuff that we've been talking about and hearing about today, I'm sure we're going to see rolling out into the platforms over the next sort of 1 or 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I think the first point is very relevant. With so much digital interaction and so much content and avatars and things, there's a greater need, I think, for old-fashioned communication and sort of human interaction. I think you've got to put the two together. There's a lot of talk at the moment about robo-advice and the automation of financial advice. But I think if you use robo-advice to sort of automate a lot of the processes but keep some human involvement, that would be a great combination.
We sort of touched on the question about data, so I thought the other one was interesting, about reviewing processes prior to implementing technology. Do you find, or did you do it to look at what your processes were before you did something new, so that you could?
Yeah, we certainly looked at the to be process and our existing processes, and we had to make some significant changes because we've automated a lot of the administration. So we have a payroll feed out from Staffcare, goes straight into our payroll system. So without having that review of the process, we couldn't even get that process in the first place. Mm-hmm. So it is absolutely vital you do it.
Yes, I was speaking to somebody earlier, I think we'll come up in a panel later, and they hadn't done that pre-process thing, and they realised, hang on, how did we used to do that? I've forgotten already because we've got the new tech, and they sort of had a problem with that.
Process map.
The second one.
Yes.
So the question about how do you get past the negative employee perception of handing over their data. As I said, it's very much about trust. It reminds me really, sort of going back 19 years when I was involved in launching many of the first sort of online shopping stores for some of our big retailers. And a lot of people just didn't believe that they would be able to sell their goods online. I remember having a conversation with the finance director of Next. I wish I taped it. He said, we'll never sell clothing online. And they eventually got convinced, but then the next barrier was, could we encourage people to pay for things with their credit card over the internet? And it took a while, and now we don't worry about it. So I think it's just a matter of building up that trust, and that would be the same way working in the workplace and building that trust with your employees so they're comfortable that you can hold more of their data. And there's obviously certain barriers as to what you can see and what's private to them.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Thank you to both of us. That is fantastic. So a big round of applause, and if you can give them all of both the session a quick vote so we can get some feedback. And right, we're going to go into the next session now. So some of you may be expecting now to go into the session with Benefax and Professor Stephen Perkins on pay, which is downstairs. And we're now expecting some of the people who were in that session who are coming up here to hear our next two speakers from Mercer. So we've got 5 minutes just to do a switch around. Thank you.